Good morning in Prague. The presentation doesn't really work the way it should do. I'm just going to scroll through the pictures with an open program. I think it should be okay for this purpose. I would like to develop a number of things that I came through by researching things, starting from the topic black goo. If you stumble into this topic for the first time, for most of the people it is something weird, something strange, something that is not important within the daily life. Once you manage to dive into this topic, you can realize that actually most of the things we are doing on daily life basis is driven, changed, ruled by this substance and this topic. So once you manage to understand what black goo is and what it does on this planet, it gives you a completely different understanding of the question, what rules our life, what turned our planet into the place it is now. And with this understanding of the planet and our history that I will try to develop, you also come to complete different conclusions, what steps could be taken next to change this world into a better world. I'm going to do this a little bit from, let's say, the story, how I came to deal with the substance and with the topic, so that you can just pick it up as a story. And this is something that occurred in my life a number of times, that actually topics popped up and forced me to deal with them. And with the black goo topic it was kind of the same. It started with an invitation of a not so close friend who just phoned me up and told me, "Harold, I need to show you a documentary." And he was persisting. I didn't feel like I was not interested in the topic, but he made me come to his place at a certain time, and he showed me a documentary he just found on YouTube about the real cause or reason behind the Falkland Wars, when Britain went to war against Argentina to reconquer the Falkland Islands. And this was about just, meddling around with the little islands in the official press, and there was a behind story telling about a black goo reservoir being on Tula Island, one of the southern little islands, that was basically a substance that was sold on the Southern American black market because it was meant to have the ability to host intelligence, like a liquid brain being able to build nanobots with swarm intelligence and all kind of weird things. So this was a very wanted substance, and the British people wanted to have this substance for themselves, so they reconquered the islands, brought the substance to Great Britain, and then tried to utilize it as, let's say, a substance to host artificial intelligence, to create nanobots with swarm intelligence. This was their intention, but it completely went wrong according to this documentary. And basically the substance of the oil already was intelligent, and it was inhabited by a very loving being calling herself Mother Earth, and she refused to be abused for military purposes. And while trying to still work with this sentient oil, the mindset of the people working with it was messed up. So basically the documentary said that half of the people working in these military labs went nuts and committed suicide in very cruel and or funny ways, and the other half kind of saved their own lives by finding to affirmation saying, please connect me to the one source, which gave them access to the collective consciousness of the planet. Being one with all plants, being one with all animals, being one with all humans, being able to communicate with every living being on telepathic level. And of course, after having reached this state, there was no sense in developing weapons to control or to go to war anymore. So they had to shut down the labs where they tried to utilize this substance. And that was basically the end of the story told in this documentary. This is like, you look at a story, it did not relate to my life back then. I was not further interested in the topic, so I just kind of stored it in the back of my head as something that came across my path. And back at that time, I actually was researching other things. I was researching the Morgellons disease, which is a transhumanistic technology developed by the elites to mind control basically every single human that is infected with this little fungi fibers or mycelium. And I was suspecting the Morgellon entity being part of German World War II bioweapon research. So I got in contact with people who not did the official history bit that is taught about World War II, but that did research underground facilities of World War II times, that went into the mines, into the bunkers, and had one-to-one contact with the equipment and the content of these facilities. And I met some of these people just to ask them whether they came across Morgellon research in World War II. And sad enough, they did not. I never got answers to those questions I had. But on one of these meetings, one of these guys doing this research just went to his car and came back with a box. And what he brought back was this. And he said this is some oil schist he recovered from underground facilities. There was about a ton of this. And he found it to be an interesting mineral. He didn't know what it is. And he said, actually, we managed to follow instructions we found to extract the oil from this oil schist. And it behaves funny. So what he found is an oil. Oops. Okay, here we go. An oil that why doesn't it play? Okay, just a sec. I have to get it from somewhere else. So you can see how it is forming a kind of liquid crystal. It is very fluent, but it self-organizes, and it's forming kind of the shape of an insect eye. Completely symmetrical. And something that happened on that first meeting, this is kind of the second meeting, he had only one of these glasses. With the first meeting, he had two of these plastic containers with two eyes of this kind. And he demonstrated how if you put the two eyes in a distance of 4 to 5 meters, they started to react on each other, which went like the two eyes looking at each other first, then realizing, okay, there's something of my sort and I want to unify to one bigger entity. And they started to pull, trying to get closer to each other, which did not work because they were caught in these containers. So the moment they realized they cannot come closer, they started to fight to try to get out of the pot by shaking and jumping inside the pots. So this had something of an intelligent being in a liquid form trying to get what it wants to get. Okay. Sorry for the mess with the computers. So that was my first meeting with a substance that I had seen kind of in this, or heard about in the documentary that I heard before, saw before. And I told those people, actually what you're dealing here looks to me like black goo. And actually it did have an emotional impact on the people that were in that room. What I kind of felt was that I was getting cold-hearted. It was like a little bit the feeling you get in these big old churches, where you freeze and you have some kind of respect that is funny. What happened next is that I was a little bit in problem with the hotel we had the meeting, because they didn't have a room for me that night. And I was forced to sleep in the car at 2 to 3 degrees, so I was freezing to death. And then I just had a shower in a friend's room who still got one of the last rooms available. And the director, the manager of the hotel, started a fight with me because I took a shower, although I didn't pay for a room, just to warm up in the morning. And I realized that I was very, very close to beating the woman up. And I just realized that this is not typical for me. Normally I don't have the intention or the need to beat women. And so I realized just facing this substance did something with me. If I just felt into myself, normally the heart activity is somewhere here. There was nothing left of this. I could think, I still had some kind of sexuality within me, I had life force, but all the rest was gone. I was like reduced to 3 chakras. This is how it felt like, just in my system. And it did not really go together with the description of the entity from the documentary. But back then I had no clue. It just was, there was one type of black goo talking about in public in this documentary. I saw something that resembled the liquid. It had some strange properties as well. And it didn't do me good. So the next impulse was, if you're kind of energetically infected with something on information level, what might help, that was my thought, was to develop information medicine to get rid of this state again. So I took a sample of one of these stones and go back to them and drove to my healing practitioner who has all the technology to produce globally as information medicine or radionic medicine or homeopathic medicine. And we took the information pattern from the stone and imprinted it on globally, following the theory that you can heal things with the information of the disease. You can heal a disease by introducing the information of the disease. So we produced medical globally from this black goo oil schist, and I took them in the hope to get rid of this funny state of myself, being so empathy-free and cold-hearted. And the thing that happened actually was very similar to the thing described by this British documentary of people reconnecting or connecting to Mother Earth. So the cold state started to disappear from my body. It started from the feet and went up, 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 up. And after like 14 hours, it reached my head. And after the coldness was out of my head, like I was completely reconquered by the other field, it felt like Mother Earth in person intruding my body from the feet into me, saying hello for the first time since thousands and thousands of years. It was one of the most intense experiences on spiritual level I had, to open myself to this entity that feels like a black whale, or felt like a black whale diving into me. And it was a really warm welcome in a way. So at that point, it was the first time that I kind of realized that black goo is one substance, but there seem to be two qualities. One with 3 chakras that make you aggressive, cold-hearted, free of empathy, and one that has the full capacity of this planet, the full emotional set we can experience with love and joy and everything that makes us human. So that was kind of the first experiences I had facing this substance. And then once I've been into the topic, without even looking for it, more evidence came to me. Like trying to understand where this comes from. The next thing that happened is that Majid Abdelaziz, a friend of mine, I'm into desert greening projects with in North Africa. He was hired to set up a weather station in Paraguay. And actually the area he went to was the area where the Bush family bought that big lot of land to have a place to go to if they lose North America as a family. And he said, funnily enough, our Chancellor Angela Merkel has bought a villa just close to Bush's farm or whatever they run down there. And another 5 kilometers further away from the village, where all these big people try to find a place to stay, there was a mountain area that was closed by military forces. Nobody was allowed to enter, unless you're talkative and leave a little bit money here and a little bit money there and make friends with the soldiers. So he was allowed into this area. And what he brought back was this type of stone, which is basically a sandstone with a little black droplets inside. He said there were other areas that were completely black. The stone was completely black. And from the sensation of this stone, it was very similar to the other black stones I had from the German researcher. It was like getting at your bioenergetics, and it also had this extremely cold and evil aura around it, this stone. And to test if it is really this type of material, all you need is take a little magnet and apply the magnet on the oil schist or on the sandstone, and when you move it on the surface, it's like shivering. The magnet is interacting on some unknown level of physics. I would call it, this is like quantum entanglement appearing, creating some gravitational force. So this is, you can feel it in your fingers that this interaction is happening. At the same moment, the magnetic field is kind of also washing out this information field and is strengthening the biophysical connection to the stones. So if you want to have sensations from these stones and you apply magnets, everything is multiplying. It's getting much stronger and more intense, what the things you feel in the presence of a stone. So it was quite easy to understand that it is actually, the little black dots in the sandstone is the same material, is black goo oil schist as well, or black goo oil dots in sandstone. But the other interesting thing with this one is the shape of the sample. occurs when you have a meteorite coming down from outer space. These rectangular structures, the entire area was just cracked in the same way. This is like if you have an impact, you have very strong forces working on the stone, and the moment kind of it kicks back, you have pressure, and then the pressure is released, then the stone in the environment is breaking, or the stone that is coming down is breaking in exactly this way. So we had kind of geological proof that this material is not from this planet, because it is connected, it is found at a proven meteorite site. And from there on, I basically had the basic ideas where and what to look for. Then I started to go a little bit into history to see if there are any records of these stones. And what you actually find is a lot of sources mentioning these stones being worshipped by black magic cults. If you look into the stories told out of this area, basically you have the people worshipping these stones, going there once a year, sacrificing children in front of the big black stones, waiting for the demons to appear out of the stone, to come out of the stone to accept the blood and fire sacrifices. This is what is told in this about the black magic tradition. If you go further back, you find a piece of this stone being of immense importance in Mecca, in the holiest site of the Muslim community. And every pilgrim going there is meant to kiss this stone. And this is not going against Muslim now, because the Peter's Dome in Rome is supposed to have one of these black rocks right in the middle of the big building. So, as it looks like all religious cults, you can think of, maybe with an exception of some Asian philosophies, they have this stone in the center of their cult. And especially the churches, the old churches in Europe, they all have a black altar stone from this quality. And this is why you do not feel love in the church. This is why you have this cold, shivering feeling when you go inside, that it is supposed to kind of give you respect or fear of God more than feeling the love of God at that place. So it is kind of a funny thing, because at that moment you start to rethink if the world you were introduced to is actually the way it's been told to you that it is. Because I always thought people go to church to get closer to God, to become better humans. Same with Muslim people. The philosophy is full of love and respect, actually, but then they go to a holy place and connect themselves to the most evil thing you can imagine. So something I started to realize was completely wrong about the perception of our world. And so I continued a little bit to research the history. Let's see what comes next. This, for example, is the temple of Aphrodite. Had one of these stones in the center of the cult. If you look into the Eastern cultures, it is called Shiva's lingam, as an occult stone, and to protect people from the very strong impact of this evil information field outside of the times when it was in ritual use. They covered it with women's hair to kind of shield and protect the humans in the environment from the impact of the field being emitted by the stone. So there you have kind of, in the Asian tradition, you have the form it was brought into. It is a typical, a little bit looking like a 60s rocket, space rocket, typical form to recognize just the form and the looking of these occult pieces of black goo oil schist used in former times. And interestingly, the next one I came across were Turkish and Greek coins showing the tree of life in paradise, the one the apple was hanging on that Adam was convinced to eat. And left and right of the tree of life in the paradise garden, we have two Shiva's lingam. And this was like going, aha, now I start to understand what happened when we were deteriorated from paradise. This is kind of the core, this is the point where the core understanding started to come, what actually happened to us. Now, thinking that, or realizing that we have obviously two different types of black goo. The Falkland quality that also can be found as mumio in rising mountain areas all over the world. We have it in the southern Russian republics. It's like people's medicine to take the black oil that is found in caves in rising mountain areas. We have the same thing in the Himalaya region, used by Tibetan monks for healing purposes. So we do have this earth type black goo that is loving and friendly, and we do have the alien type black goo that came down with meteorites. And having these two in mind, now imagine, let's say 16,000 years ago, this is how we can kind of put a date to it. A swarm of meteorites came down containing the black goo of a different planet that used to have a different biosphere. And before that, actually, on our planet, everything was in order. We were a race that had healthy instincts and that was completely connected to the collective consciousness of the planet. If you feel into it and try to understand the quantum physics part of this thing, it's everything we sense, feel, and think actually is happening on biophoton level. A feeling is an exchange of biophotons in an annihilated state of a certain color and certain frequencies and certain patterns in between our DNA clusters. So if I think, my brain produces blue light in geometric figures. Most of the thinking is like in binary fields. If I have sexual feelings, then it is red light thing happening with a different geometry that goes in 90-degree angles. If I feel love, it's about green light, green to red, purple light, with angular structures of 30 and 60 degrees. So this is all kind of light exchange within the DNA clusters. And what the black goo seems to do on physical level is to collectively mirror all the biophoton exchange happening in the biosphere. Which is interesting because this is like we are individuals. Every being on the planet is an individual regarding itself as an individual. But on the other hand, we can connect to a sphere that is also having biophoton exchange, and that is mirroring everything that is happening within the biosphere, within an immortal collective consciousness that is within the planet. So this is kind of the concept of black goo, how it should be on a healthy planet. The black goo, if you look at the cave system and the rising mountain areas, it seems that the black goo is actually the thing that is filling the ley line systems of a planet. And whenever you have rising mountain areas, sometimes ley lines are cut off, and then the oil is coming through the stone, zipping out of the inner walls of cave systems. So this is kind of like you can put the puzzle together to understand how a biosphere should function. And now take an event 16,000 years ago when an alien black goo comes down with meteorites, and suddenly the entire biophoton exchange within the biosphere has the possibility to redirect from the Earth-type black goo to the alien-type black goo, just because it is closer. It was lying on the surface of the planet instead of being at 3 to 5 miles depth within the stone. So what happens then is that suddenly we are connected to completely alien instincts. We're connected to something that is giving us the instinct to be cold-hearted, free of empathy, and all the other qualities that can be felt within this oil schist, just by connecting to it and observing yourself what it does with you. If you want to exactly know what it does, just watch the ways of the German SS soldiers during World War II. They used these stones as decoration of their knives, as something to put on letters so that they don't fly away in the wind. Like just occult substances to create things for daily life use. So they were all the time connected to these dark energies. And everybody knows what they did when they were conquering Europe, how cruel they were and how free of empathy. So this is basically what must have happened back then, and you can see this from these coins, like showing that actually the act of deterioration from paradise is connected to the use or the contact of humanity with this alien black goo oil schist in the Garden of Paradise. And I don't know how this happens, whether the soil around the tree was infected by the oil, or the tree itself was connected, so the moment you take the apple and eat from the tree, you introduce the substances you need to completely entangle yourself to the alien collective consciousness. And from there on, we kind of live in duality. We do have, as humans, we do have a certain possibility to consciously connect to the 7 chakra system, be a good human, or we can connect to the other chakra system that is tempting us with the power we gain by doing this, with the cruelty we can live, and the profit we can make by being cruel. So this is all about the physical substances that brought this type of duality onto the planet. Just one picture from the holy site of the Muslim people. The stone they're supposed to touch, also filled with black goo oil schist. And it goes on in a way that you need to realize that actually, if you look into the black magic traditions, when people went to worship black goo stones and then the demons came out of it, this is something that needs further understanding as well. There is one Hollywood film that very precisely shows what this is about, and this is the film Final Fantasy. Has anyone seen it? It's basically, the story is about a human couple. She's a scientist, he's, I think, a soldier, and the planet is completely destroyed by alien attaching spirits who suck out the life force of every living being on this planet. And basically everything is already destroyed on planet Earth. And this woman she's a shaman, and she's collecting animal spirits, kind of finding the last surviving animals to pick up their spirit. And then they go to the place where the meteorite came down and find a black goo-like substance, and they manage to infect the alien black goo with the information field of Mother Earth. And then kind of Mother Earth manages to conquer the alien information field, healing the entire planet. So this is basically, I do not know who wrote the script for this film, but there's an extreme deep knowledge, because exactly the setup that is described in the film is the setup that is basically ruling the entire planet since 16,000 years, giving us this type of duality, giving us demons that for me appear to as the lost souls of a biosphere that self-destroyed and came here as a swarm of meteorites. So basically, this is the liquid brain of a different planet brought here by intention, because I don't believe that even if this planet exploded, we should have had like thousands of meteorites without black goo and maybe one with black goo. But what arrived here is only meteorites with black goo. So somebody brought this here by intention, by intention infect this planet with this alien consciousness. And the entities black magicians are talking to must be surviving beings that are not incarnating anymore because they lost their planets, but are still there as the souls of these beings, being highly intelligent. And if you look at the pictures that people painted from, let's say, their visions they had from this type of reality, it seems to be a spider-like species that was running this planet that self-destroyed. So these are like insect biology, spider-like, extremely intelligent and highly developed. And these were called the archons in our culture. So basically these are beings that started by communicating with people that were willing to communicate. They started to create this black magic entanglement to humanity, and they offered us the possibility to control others. This was something that was actually not within the human nature. All these ideas of running a biosphere not based on love but based on different emotions. This is what they kind of introduced to this planet. So the first things that came from the black magic rituals was blood and fire sacrifice. Ritually killing animals to gain this biophoton burst that is emitted when a being dies in pain. To, on one hand, feed the demons. This is what they needed to survive as beings. They didn't have a biology of their own, so they needed to feed on life force in a certain way. And on the other hand, some of the energy extracted by these rituals is also used to pay the people sacrificing, because they want to have worldly power. So if you want to have worldly power and gain profit, you need ways and means to control other people. And this painful emission of life force when you kill somebody can, if you know the game of black magic, can be used to force other people to do things they do not want to force, because facing these energies is extremely painful. And this has evolved and developed on our planet, and they switched from, let's say, the biophoton burst from killing animal and humans it was changed to a system that is running today on torture energy. We are keeping billions of animals in concentration camp-like conditions on farms, making them suffer their entire life, killing them in cruel to cruelest ways, and then we eat them. Although this is not within our nature. Normally we have long lower intestines. We're supposed to be vegetarians, maybe with a possibility to digest a little meat before we starve as a security thing. But normally we should not scoff meat from morning till evening. So this is actually all coming out of these black magic traditions, being fire and blood sacrifice, to produce torture energies that are utilized by the black magic community to run and rule this planet. So this is kind of the way that this little incident 16,000 years ago took over our culture, took over our way of living. And actually everything we do today is part of this agenda. This is all about control. Control is giving birth to scarcity. Because if I want to control things, I grab them and do not leave them for others. So the others do not have access anymore. So this is possessing things, owning things, this is money. The moment I have money, I need a political system to administer all the things. So basically, every quality that we perceive as being normal, because we were born in this, actually is part of this black magic cult. If we go beyond this, before this, we come to a paradise state that is living in abundance, that we all just share free out of love with each other. Nature is giving us so much, we could all live in abundance without any problems, but we are infected by these energies, we are following their ways of control. So what we basically do is we connect ourselves to, not to love, but to torture energy by eating what we eat. This is how this is introduced into our system. And then we let ourselves being guided and ruled by torture energy, being in resonance with this. And this is what we call politics, and this is why politics want to go to World War III, because this is blood sacrifice. This is how they work, and this is how they maintain their system. And power is part of this system. We cannot solve a problem by replacing one governor by another one, because the concept of governing is black. We cannot replace a currency by a better currency, because the concept of money is black. So this is kind of, once you start to understand the ways that were introduced by this agenda, you start to realize that we are completely infected. It's like normally we think we are humans, but suddenly we realize no, we are just one big piece of cancer that is running around with the things we do and the things we live. Realizing that this is not human, what became normal. And so, so far this is kind of the older history of the black goo, how it came here, what it did with us, and this basically is a rather sad story. I would call it that one. On the other hand, once realizing what this story is, we might as well consciously say, now I realized I am sick of something, so now I have the possibility to heal myself. And understanding what happened makes it rather easy to heal yourself. If I can be conscious about the two different chakra systems, I can say, okay, this is the problem, so let's develop my heart chakra. Let's put all my intention on starting to feel love in my heart chakra. If I realize actually the brain that once was a very, very intelligent tool to get what we wanted to have from the heart, completely took over control because the other half was erased by connecting to other things, I can realize, okay, where do I locate myself energetically? Everybody has a sensation of himself being somewhere. You know, the autistic people, the dreamers, the ADS, ADHS children, they are somewhere out in the field. They're somewhere hovering around in open space, not being identified with their body anymore. This is one option where you might find yourself as a being. The other option you might find is being 100% identified with your mind. This is where the black reeds want to have us, because this part is binary, it can be controlled. Some people might still be connected with their heart, being always in the middle, like being centered in the middle of their chest. Lucky ones. There are not many of this type left on this planet. Most of the people, I guess, and this is what I experienced with myself, was that I can consciously take all three positions. I can hover in the field if I want to, I can dream myself away, then I'm somewhere out in the collective, making me very sensitive to what is happening on one hand, but not being incarnated in the way it should be actually. I can be in my head thinking, and I can consciously pull myself into the heart where I should be. And this is something we can train. We can train and learn, and we can just heal ourselves by becoming aware of where we are. And this is actually what brings us back to the way of being we were created. If we pull ourselves into the heart, suddenly I discovered extreme interesting abilities. Once I managed to pull myself into the heart, I realized, or I've been shown by people who were a little bit more advanced than me, that down here it is possible to decide. In a way I have never decided things before. Like the doctors say, we are split in the middle, we have the consciousness and we have the subconsciousness, and the subconsciousness is not visible to us. This is bullshit. This is what the doctors say. The subconsciousness is not visible to us because it is so ugly that we don't want to have a look at it. This is all the crap we've been pushing away for hundreds of incarnations because these are things we did we do not want to cope with. We do not want to have a look at this. So all the evil, all the dirt, all the ugly things are pushed away and became what doctors call the subconsciousness. There is no beauty to be found over there. But there is a lot of spiritual growth that can be found down there if we clear that mess up. So what we do have is, for example, the possibility to identify with the heart, to pull yourself into the heart chakra, and then to consciously decide to feel this again. I can go down here and say, I feel my pain. And when I do this from the chest, immediately I do feel my pain. I do feel my anger. I do feel the evil that I lived. So this is kind of the door to reconquer the subconsciousness. And this is something everybody can do with himself. And this makes us conscious beings again, fully conscious beings. And the trick is, like the straight emotions can be directly accessed. Most of the people are full of fears, subconscious fears, and the fear is always a door. If fear appears, you can decide, I enter the fear as a portal. And then you're thrown into your fears, you feel them, and if you don't pull back, behind the fear you find a topic. So it's just a kind of a door to enter, to clear up whatever is behind, and you cannot know in advance what you will find. Normally it's a big surprise, and normally the fear of the fear or the fear of the emotion is much worse than the thing you find behind that door. So we do have ways and means and possibilities to completely clear ourselves, become fully conscious beings again. And this opens the second possibility, to become fully empathic again. Because empathy is the normal state of our biology. We should be connected with everything and everyone. We should feel our fellow humans, we should feel the animals we are living with, we should even feel the plants. But we cannot feel anything if we don't even feel ourselves. So becoming fully conscious again is the first step. And the second step will be becoming fully empathic again. To develop the ability, not only the ability to feel other people, to develop this as a normal state of being with the inability to disconnect. And this is what the return to paradise is about. To come into a state of mind where we are not able anymore to disconnect from anything when it is in front of us. And this actually, if you think about it, imagine all the people on the planet being dropped in this state of mind. What would happen? We would lose our ability to be cruel, because at the moment you are cruel, you suffer yourself. We would lose our ability to destroy this planet, because we would feel the suffering we cause by destroying. And most of the people kind of hope that we might one day become intelligent enough to stop destroying. This is what I find out there with the most of the people hope that kind of being rational will save us. And I really believe that this is the wrong way. This will never happen, because it does not include feeling what we do. And as long as we are not forced to feel what we cause, we will cause harm, because it's easy. And I've seen single people who were rational enough to kind of control themselves, but this is not a solution. This is sad, in a way. So this is like the path that becomes visible when we think about how can we return to paradise. And this is, in a way, it's not an easy one. It's not an easy path, because first we need to go through our own bloodshed, to realize what we have done during the time and what we are still doing to this planet today. We need to feel what we are doing to this planet. And if you should at a certain point decide to take that as the first step of empathy, if you clear yourself, become fully conscious, and then say, I feel the suffering of Mother Earth. This connects you to the collective field of this planet, and then you will feel what we do to Mother Earth. And this is extremely painful, what we do. We kind of took most of their cuties, all these little animals. We took them and put them to prison and make them suffer. This is not nice, but this is what we do, and this is what we decide that it should be done whenever we go to the supermarket and buy a piece of meat. And we can do this because we do not feel the consequences of our own doings. So turning back into the other direction first means to accept that we have to go through a phase that is painful, but actually it is our pain that we have to carry because we produced it. This is about accepting your karma out of free will, in a way. And afterwards it's getting better. Once you can, or once enough people are willing to carry this burden and to accept that this is what we have to feel at this point of history, things can improve, things can get better. And I can just say that I really, really hope that enough people will wake up to this truth, will just invest the time and the effort to clear themselves and to become conscious beings of this planet again. And then I can promise there will be a lot of beauty, unfelt beauty in this way of living that actually we all wish to have. I'm 100% sure everyone would love to return to this state of being an emotional being, feeling the full spectrum of life, joy, love, compassion. Everything is actually there. It is accessible. But you cannot kind of pick out the nice feelings and try to push away the ugly ones. And I can just say this from my own experience. Once you rediscover this emotionality, every emotion is welcome, because feeling is something so beautiful. And this is how we were made, this is how we were created, this is what we actually should or can return to if we want to. And sad enough, society is still a little bit far away from this point of returning. What we observe at the moment is actually on field level. If you try to understand the basic positions, we used to believe that everything is about good and evil, and if I look at reality now, I have to state that actually we have three positions that try to gain space. This is good, evil, and control. And this has to do something with the field symmetries of our chakras. If you look at the Asian knowledge of the colors and the symbols, the drawings connected to chakras, we have binary fields here, we have rectangular fields down there. So these are the things that go with 90 degree and 180 degree angles. This is all about this morphogenetic system that is driven by the control agenda. This is actually the influence of the alien black goo, that as a biosphere is connected to binary beings, being driven only by binary and rectangular fields. And this is kind of one biological